Welcome to the ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright, an exciting thrill ride through the wonderful world of HBCU athletics. Before our trip begins, let's set a few ground rules. First, subscribe to this YouTube channel. Second, hit the like button. Third, please be sure to tell someone else about this show. Now that we've got these things out of the way, it's time for our journey to begin. Sit back, relax, and enjoy your ride.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I am back. It's been a little while since Wild Wayne has been before you, but I am back, and I'm back for a night to just kind of talk through some things, man. Um, those of you know it's been track season for me, so uh, my track season for high school and college just ended for me over the weekend, so got a little bit of time. Just wanted to come back for a night. There's been some things that have gone on since I've been away from the scene that I haven't had a chance to talk about publicly, so I'm going to do that tonight. But what I want you to do, as you always do, make sure you hit that like button. Those of you that are watching for the first time, make sure you subscribe. And also tell somebody else about the show. You know what I'm saying? Tell folks, hey, Wild Wayne is on, man. Get in, get involved. Also, I want y'all to participate in those comments because tonight there's going to be some things that I'm going to talk about that's going to require your participation. And I really want to get some of your, some of the altitude, some of the opinions of those that are around about some of these things that I'm going to talk about. As you probably saw on the thumbnail, there's been some few things that have been some developments, so we'll get into that here in a bit. But first and foremost tonight, I just want to say again, I'm back. I had a couple people ask me, we haven't seen you in a while. What's going on? I'm a track and field official. Some of y'all probably already knew that I did the SWAC outdoor there in Baton Rouge. So it was really cool to be down there for 3 days. It was pretty sticky down there with humidity. It was really, really cool to connect with a lot of the athletes and the coaches. Also got to talk to Associate Commissioner Drew Roberts. We had a pretty good conversation during the rain delay that we had on the middle day. Also got to talk a little bit with Commissioner McClellan. Saw athletic director Ashley Robinson, Travis, SID of Jackson State. Saw a lot of people down there, man. It was a good time. So shout out to everybody out there. But in conjunction with that, I just want to start off tonight by just giving my appreciation and my shout out to those athletes that are in the SWAC that have qualified for the Outdoor Nationals, which will begin next week, Wednesday, out there in Eugene, Oregon. And it's kind of funny. I'm going to actually be out there in Eugene, Oregon, the week after officiating the USATF Under 20 Championships. So Eugene, Oregon is a really wonderful place. Tracktown USA, as it's called. Really wonderful facility. And if you get a chance to qualify and make it there, man, it's an awesome place to be. So Tashina Alase, man, she's the first one on this graphic from Southern University. She holds the top time. She's actually tied with the top time with University of Kentucky's Emmy Scales with the top time in America in the 100-meter hurdles at 12.64 seconds. So she punched her ticket there to Eugene. Dadrian Bevel, triple jump savant from Alabama State. Also, you've got the 4x100 meter relay quartet there for Florida A&M. They've also got a hurdler from Florida A&M who's Leonard Mastari. He made it. And then also from my alma mater from Alabama A&M, Justin Walker. Justin Walker, he qualified in the long jump by setting his all-time personal best on his first jump, 25 feet 2 inches, to get the 12th and final qualifying spot out of the East Regional to go to Eugene. So shout out to these folks. There's a couple people from North Carolina A&T that are going to be participating. So this is really, really cool, man. Track and field is one of the things that we have the opportunity to make some inroads in terms of qualifying to these next levels. And we definitely have had athletes that have been able to do that. So, you'll see these athletes participating. You'll see it on the ESPN family of networks. Like I said, it starts next week, Wednesday. What you want to do, you definitely want to make sure that you tune in and you support these folks. Also, you could just hit them up on their social media platforms. That would also be great too, because they deserve and they need your support. So shout out to all these athletes. All right. And now I want to go on and just jump right on in tonight. Okay. I want to start off by talking about TV rights. Okay. Now, this game right here, this has been pretty much the poster child of this conversation that I'm going to start tonight. Now, there's been a lot of talk about, this game. It always is going to have talk anyway, because it's a diehard rivalry, right? You can see this game, Texas Southern going to play Prairie View down there in Prairie View. You see the game time, and this game is going to be at noon Eastern on Sunday, September the 6th. Okay. A lot of people have been talking about, people been selling out, all bowing down to Massa, all it. Yeah, listen, man, people, let's pump the brakes on all that dumb talk. Hey, man, what's good? Yeah, let's go for it. Let's pump the brakes on all that dumb talk, man. Bottom line is this, man. We don't get very many opportunities to be on national television, okay? And as a matter of fact, this is the first of 2 games on that same day that's going to be on national television on ESPN, family of networks. You're also going to have the Orange Blossom Classic at 3:00 on ESPN that day between South Carolina State and FAMU. But let me stick with me for a second here on this game, man. Listen, the way television networks do business, this is something that a lot of folks have no idea about. People, they're so quick to just get on social media. They're quick to run their mouths. They're quick to jump to conclusions, quick to say a lot of things, but they don't understand the way business works. Okay? You have contracts with said networks. Okay? Network comes to you, asks you, or tells you that they want to televise your game. Now, many times you are contractually obligated to play in the spaces that are offered. Okay. The MEAC has had those similar situations. Remember how everybody got upset last year that South Carolina State and North Carolina Central played on a Friday late afternoon, right? But it still didn't stop the fact that it was a great game and people tuned in and watched it. Now, I know a lot of folks are talking about, well, it's 11 a.m. in the Central. It's too early for all it. Listen, man. These 2 teams gonna get on the field. They will play at any time, anywhere. It don't matter the weather. They're gonna play each other. And for a game like this to be on national television, it should be, hey, this is awesome. That they see this rivalry as a game that is worthy of a national broadcast. But instead, the narrative has been stuff like this. And yeah, some of this of what I'm talking about tonight is these AI graphics, but stick with me. It fits the conversation. Okay, I saw this graphic, and this type of thing right here, man. This is dumb. And folks that are entertaining this kind of stuff, you shouldn't be entertaining this. Okay, you putting this stuff up here talking about attendance will be way down. Talking about exposure doesn't pay bills, real money does. Listen, man, you got to stop with all this kind of carrying on. First of all, like I said, these AI graphics, people been doing way too much. All right. People just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go ahead on and I'm gonna just create a graphic. I'm gonna post it. Let's get people to laugh at it. Ha 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 ha. You look real dumb. You're up here talking about PV Volks are just plain dumb. He's saying, you haven't seen this nonsense? Yeah, this got posted this evening, man. This got posted this evening. Yeah. Yeah. Crazy stuff. Yeah. Hey, what up? I ain't seen you in a minute. Yep. Got eyes on this one. But yeah, this is the type of stuff that I'm talking about right here. Okay. Oh, you didn't see this either? Hey, check it out, man. Check it out. Look at the stuff that's being said. Said they're walking away from a potential $1.2 million gate. Talking about if they would have played the game, I'm assuming they're saying that's real dollars and cents that would have stayed with the university. I'm assuming they're saying that they would have had way more money if they played this game at night. Okay, I can only assume that that's what they're trying to say. But here's the thing, man. You've got no basis, you've got no backbone, you got no proof, you got nothing. Okay, you don't know anything. Then you're saying TV contract money goes to the conference, not the university. This kind of stuff, man, it is ridiculous, man. And what he said, John said, I don't want to see anyone talk about this game when folks don't go to games unless it's homecoming. I hear you on that too, John. I hear you. I hear you. I hear you. But the point of this thing right here, though, and you're saying there'll be more people at church than at the game, not to mention attendance will be way down. Listen, man, I know that PV, they get a lot of flack, they get a lot of grief about their attendance. I know that. And PV fans, you guys know, you admit it, you'll say that, hey, we get a lot of grief because of our attendance, right? This is an opportunity now. If I go back here, this is an opportunity. And yeah, I hear you. Texas heat stroke weather at noon. Yeah, it's going to be pretty hot. I know it. But guess what? It's a game that's still going to be played. And, you have an opportunity to show up and support. You can show up or you don't. That's just the bottom line of where it is. But at the same time, there was an opportunity to have your brand shown on television. And again, you take the opportunities where you can get them. This stuff doesn't come around every single day, ladies and gentlemen. Prairie View is also going to play the previous Saturday on ESPN2 up against Tarleton State. Also, as you can see, let me go to this. You can look at the opportunities that we have on national TV here in week 0. You look at Southern and Alabama State, going to be on ESPNU. That's going to be an afternoon game, okay, in Birmingham. You're going to see Prairie View at Tarleton State, okay, big matchup. Another one. You're going to see that on ABC, my alma mater, Alabama A&M, is going to be playing Howard in the MEAC SWAC kickoff. These are opportunities where people are going to have a chance to be on national television, okay? This stuff does not come around too often. Now let me go here to the next week. You can see here the two at the bottom there, the game that I'm talking about, and then you see right there behind it, you see the Orange Blossom Classic, okay? In the first 2 weeks, there are opportunities for our brands to have front and center stage on national television. That is something that cannot be overstated. Okay? You take the opportunities when you can get them. We always talk about how networks don't show our games. And a lot of times we complain about way that it's being broadcasted and all yada 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 yada. It's a showcase of a rivalry game. Point blank, period. I know living here in Columbus that Ohio State fans, they complain all the time about Fox having their games on big noon kickoff a lot. And you know what? Fox, they said, hey, we get the first pick of all of the Big Ten games according to this contract. And they said, we're going to maximize our viewership potential and we're going to pick Ohio State as often as we can. The fans don't like it because they say, I just want to, I don't like it because I got to come to tailgate all early. I'd rather have a night game. Listen, we know everybody would love to play at night. We know, especially early in the season. But all this sellout talk, let's lose that, man. He said the LDC is far from its glory days in the 90s, but the LDC still draws more than the average PV game. That's truth. Okay. He said, how many FCS conferences would welcome this in a heartbeat? You know, there's a lot of conferences that will welcome this stuff. They would welcome it. They would sign up for this type of stuff because, again, it's exposure. Now, all that sellout talk, again, you can miss that. You can lose me with that. Because, again, we want to be on television. And sometimes you have to do certain things like this in order to get your brand out there. Now, what happens if at between the hours of 12 and 3 p.m. on that Sunday, if these guys are playing an absolute brawl, classic, right? And lots of people are saying, hey, did you see that game down there in Prairie View? Man, those two teams, man, they were going at it. We've had opportunities in the past where we've had national opportunities and we've shown out. You know, you remember that Celebration Bowl in the past when Jackson State and North Carolina Central, they went double overtime. Man, it opened a lot of eyes for people to HBCU football. So my point is, yes, I know it's going to be hot, but guess what? The game's still going to be played. Folks going to show up that really want to be there and people are going to watch it. I'm going to watch it. I know many of you that talk about it. I know you're going to watch it, but I just hope that people show up, man. I just hope they do. All right. All right. So now let's go back to this. Okay. Let's go back to this. AI graphics, man. Man, AI graphics, I think that we're getting so far out of touch with this kind of stuff. Okay. Y'all know, man, it's graphics every single day that people are posting. Now, some of them, I'll admit, they're pretty funny. But there's a lot of them, man, where people are posting things and they don't check. They don't do the research. They're trying to make posts and trying to make points about stuff. It just does not. What are we doing, man? It's like, you know, people who don't really have any other things to do with their time. And then the crazy thing is when people make graphics, one person makes a graphic and they say, well, you know what? I'm going to make a graphic too. And then one person comes and says, well, you know, I like that. I want to jump on that too. Let me make a graphic. I've seen so many graphics where people are posting. Like I saw one where somebody said, these are the biggest rivalries or the biggest classics in HBCUs. And they showed the State Fair Classic between Prairie View and Grambling, and the graphic had AT&T Stadium where the Cowboys play. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, can you just tell us that you're out of touch without telling us that you're out of touch? Tell us that you don't know how to proofread without telling us that you know how to proofread, that you don't know how to proofread. Like I've seen different things where logos have been wrong. There's been crazy weird things that people have posted. And then when you check people on stuff like this, then the fact that then they want to go and start defending, start deflecting, start going in, saying you don't know this, you don't know that. Listen, man, AI graphics, there's way too much out here. Way too much. It's all over everywhere. Like it's not even just when people are making stuff like this. You're seeing people, well, I want to make a flyer for an event, and you see it's the same stuff. And then you look at the graphic, and it's like, random black folks. It's like, who's this? Or they post something about a game, and you're seeing players, and you're like, well, these people don't play for your team, and your jerseys, they don't look like this. and, and then also I've seen like somebody made AI graphic about some commitments to Alabama A&M for sports, and showed a bell tower in the middle of campus at A&M. Like, we don't have a bell tower. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, come on, man. We just are. Have we reached this point where we're just posting anything? I mean, we know a lot of folks out here just say anything. That's never going to stop. But now it's just gotten a little bit more too much now, because you giving them this ability to create this type of nonsense. I just saying, man, AI graphics, bro. It's too much. Too much. Okay. I just wanted to just kind of talk about that for a minute. And now I want to get on into something that I think is very near and dear to everybody's hearts. I think that people would love to talk about, because this is the meat of the show. And we're 21 minutes in. A shout out to everybody that's watching. Make sure you hit the like button tonight. Tell folks about the show, because we're getting ready to get into the next piece of this, man, which is I'll start right here. This is the Out of Bounds campaign. Um, Now, obviously, it's been talked about a lot. This is not a new thing. This thing was mentioned, almost about a month ago now. But you know, I haven't had a chance to talk publicly about it, and I've had my thoughts. I've had a few conversations. I talked to my wife about it at length. Um, but I haven't really talked about it until now. So what I want to start with, though, before I get into it, I want to kind of show this video. Well, you can't hear it, but you can read, you can see what's being said. Yeah, voting power, our rights. Our students should not have to go play at your university. You know, and I've seen a lot of y'all seen a lot of people have a lot to say about what could be done, what should be done better, and stay letting it, yeah, the perfect being the enemy of the good. We got to do something, and I would argue now the next 20 years is economic. Okay, so apologies for the audio there. It sounded perfect when I cut it, but anyhow, basically what was being said right there was and it's kind of good start here where I'm going. So what Angela Rye was saying, she was saying that, you know, a lot has been said about this initiative, okay? And this initiative, it's right here, okay? The Out of Bounds campaign, everybody knows it, but I just said, all right, let's just kind of get into it. Okay? Black athletes and recruits are being asked, to withhold commitments from targeted programs. Okay? Asking coaches and athletic directors where universities stand on voting rights, and to visit and seriously consider HBCUs. Okay. That's number one. Okay. We know that even before this Out of Bounds campaign even came about, people have been saying this already. Okay. Current athletes have been asked to use their platforms to elevate the issue. Ask institutional leadership for public statements opposing racial vote dilution, and to consider all available options under the transfer portal, right? And fans and alumni, donors, and consumers are asked to stop buying tickets, merchandise, licensed apparel, and starts directing that spending to HBCUs, right? The athletic programs, scholarship funds, NIL collectors, bands, and alumni foundations. All these type of things, we know this stuff is nothing new. This is something that people have been saying even before the whole gerrymandering situation, all these different things, okay, with this out of bounds campaign, right? So listen, obviously the immediate poster child of the situation has been the SEC. Okay. Obviously, you know, the SEC, its footprint is in a lot of these states that people have been talking about. Okay. Now, I know that people have had their feelings, they've had their opinions, they've had all these different things. Okay. And what I would ask, just, you know, if you got anything you want to say or any questions you want from me, any comments, I'm definitely welcoming all of that tonight. Okay. I want to just basically touch on it, you know, from my perspective. And as I go through and I see your comments, I'll tell you how I feel about it. Okay. First off, when I saw this, I had to take a pause. Okay. And the reason why I had to take a pause was because I've heard and we've heard a lot of these type of things in the past. And the question is, when you see certain initiatives get posed like this, the first question is it really attainable? Okay. Now, I fully, wholeheartedly believe that this might have been attainable maybe 3 or 4 years ago. And the reason why I say it might have been attainable maybe 3 or 4 years ago is because the landscape of college athletics 3 or 4 years ago ain't what it is now. We're in a position now where there's lots of money out here. Lots of cash that's out here that's being offered to players. Now, it was being offered to players all along. Let's not kid ourselves. We know that people got money under the table. These athletes to come to some of these institutions has always been a thing. But now it's of a legal nature. You can't be put on probation for it like that no more. All that is out in the open. And we know that HBCUs, the funding has been, what it's been for years. And, it's been getting worse. The divide has been getting larger for years. Okay. We know this. But again, I'll go back to my point. Is it attainable? And I seriously, it sounds good. And I hear a lot of people say that, black folk, black athletes and recruits, they should stop going to those schools. But let's keep it honest. If you were a parent and you had an elite 5-star or 4-star, maybe even a 3-star athlete that was being recruited to attend one of these top power institutions and have a chance to earn some life altering NIL money, like, what would you feel? Would you still be feeling like that? Also, you've been asking college athletes to use their platforms to elevate the issue. Okay. Listen, college athletes could have definitely been able to elevate their platforms this entire time, right? There's nothing saying that they could not have already used their platforms. Many have used platforms on social justice issues. But the fact of the matter is that most of the people and a lot of the folks who have things to say on this issue are not in the positions where they have people or student athletes in their household to have decisions like this being made. And also, I will challenge this thing to say that you're putting a lot of pressure on young folks to make a choice on their futures. Okay? You're asking them to make a choice on their futures for the sake of a movement. And yes, I'm not trying to say that this movement is not relevant, but there are some places that you have to understand that movements can be won in different ways. And many of the ways that this movement could have been made, honestly, there are movements that could have been made through ballot boxes. There are movements that could have been made through uniting folks and getting folks to begin to have awareness about political awareness. Also something that I talked to my wife about. She said something that's important is, hey, there's what about building up our candidates, our young folks, to be top candidates, to be political figures, to be future senators, to be future, Congress people, right? That's where a lot of this stuff could be won. And shout out to my boy DT, who's on From the Hill podcast with us. He says this all the time. Elections, they have consequences. Elections have consequences. And I'm not a person who likes to get into a lot of politics, right? I don't. Anybody who knows me, I'm not a person who likes politics, but I'll talk about it when we have to or when I have to. And I just feel like right now, I know that from an HBCU aspect, I'm an HBCU alum. I cover HBCUs. I love HBCUs. Most of you, everybody that watches me, you're all HBCU people, right? We know we want to have some advancement on our HBCU fronts. We do. We want to get more funding. We want to get more. Hey, I led off this show talking about more media access, more national awareness, more national support. I've talked about these different things, right? But when you're talking about telling people to make decisions and choices, potential life-altering choices, you got to be careful with that kind of stuff. Because you have to ask yourself, are you asking someone to make a choice that you would have made yourself if you were in the same situation? And again, a lot of the people who are asking people to make these choices are not in such situations. Okay? He said, Wayne, you spot on. I got a friend whose son is a 3-star and going to get at least $250K for his commitment. There you go, man. That's for exhibit number 1. You're going to get $250K, man. $250K. I mean, listen. How many families out here getting $250K, man? How many families out here getting $50K? $10K. Come on, man. Let's make it plain tonight. How many families out here are getting, let's even go back. How many families out here have black athletes in your household that is even capable of going, D1, okay, in any sport, okay? Let's make that plain too. All right? You're saying, give that up for the sake of a movement. And you could be just one person or 2 people or 10 people. But I got to say this, man. We've had so much time where we could have done different things to unite. We still have time where we can do things to unite. But the question that has yet to be answered is after all this sacrifice could be made, then what you gonna do with it? Because that's the question. Because I'll even ask this, like, the Target boycott. How'd that go? You seeing any Targets closing anywhere around you? They said boycott Target. Have you seen any Targets closing? I haven't. I haven't been to a Target in like 2.5 years. But I know a lot of folks that still go. I know folks that go. And look, I know folks that don't go. But last time I checked, man, Target looked like they doing just fine. Parking lot looked like it's still full. So that's the question, man. Is it attainable? And then also here, man. Oh, man. Hold on. I got to say that. I got to look at this. It said that asking young kids and their parents to pass on generational wealth is an issue. Are we asking black professors to not teach there? Yes, man. Are we asking people to give up full rides for student loan debt? Come on. That's another part of this. Okay. That's another piece of this. This is where I was going. That's why I clicked on this comment. This is where else I was going. Man, do you know how many people fought to get into the SEC? Fought to have a chance to play at some of these schools. Let me see. I'm gonna pull this up.
Former Gators that you were with during your playing days. Very special time right now for these two guys.
It is. Leonard George, Willie Jackson, the first two African-American scholarship football players, signed in 1969, and they changed the University of Florida for the good. Two great guys. They both were outstanding players. They both graduated together. And finally, they're being honored. There's a fantastic mural that the athletic department did. Well deserved.
Okay, so stuff like this, man. Okay. You look at this, barrier breakers. These two men, Leonard George and Willie Jackson Sr., okay? These guys, they played at the University of Florida. They broke the color barrier there, okay? This is one thing that a lot of people fought for. Okay? They fought to have the opportunity to get into these places that they were denied to be able to get into, okay? It's not even just athletics. You know, you had guys like James Meredith. You had guys that, people, the Little Rock Nine. You had all these people who fought for equality, right? Let me pull this back up. People who fought for equality, okay? There was a lot of stuff that went on for people who really just wanted to be treated like equals. And yes, I know that, that they've used a lot of our talents, and I'm not even going to deny that point either. They've used a lot of our talents to build something great. But my point with showing that video is that there was a fight for people to have the opportunities to go and just be playing at institutions that they were not allowed to be at. And now we've got a lot of athletes who are there and they're thriving. They're making money. You have athletes who've gone pro. You've had people who've gone and had good educations, all these different things, man. I understand. From an HBCU aspect, we would love more of this talent to be on our campuses. Hell, I would love more of the talent to be there. But honestly, I would want them to be there because they want to be there, not because they feel obligated to be there. Okay? Now, the last point that I see there, this part where it said fans, alumni, donors, and consumers are asked to stop purchasing tickets. Listen, I know a lot of Alabama fans, man, Crimson Tide fans that are black. I do, man. I know a lot of Alabama Crimson Tide. I know a lot of Florida fans. Man, I know a lot of UK basketball fans. I know LSU fans. I know a lot of them. Man, if you think they finna stop supporting them boys, I mean, I'm just keeping it honest, man. Like, do you really expect some of these folk to stop cheering Roll Tide? And I just gotta say, man, I'm just trying to keep it real, man. I just gotta keep it real. I mean, all this stuff, it sounds good, man. But again, my question before when I said, is it attainable? That's the question. Okay, now you say there are plenty of P4 schools that they can choose to make good money and earn a degree. Okay, it's funny you say that. Okay, because here's the question. All right, it ain't just the SEC, man. Okay, so what? We gonna go at the ACC? We're gonna go at the Southland? We're gonna go at the Sun Belt? We're gonna go at the SoCon? We're gonna go at the United Athletic Conference? What we gonna do? What you gonna do? Are we gonna come after all of these too? Are you gonna tell these folks not to go to these institutions too? Because here's the thing, man. You know, it'd be great to have a lot of these athletes at HBCUs, but guess what, man? How much roster room do we really have? You know, I said it be 95% Caucasian at PWI games. Yeah, it's a good point. It's a good point. Very, very good point. You know, we're only 14% of the population to begin with. 14%. I mean, that's it. He said, hell no, we not doing none of it. So the NAACP can stop asking that. I mean, come on, man. Like I had coach Cedric Thomas on here a couple months ago, man. And he talked about how much he loved North Carolina basketball. I mean, hey, I mean, what? You're not going to cheer for those? You want to? I mean, I just gotta say, man, you guys get the point of where I'm going with all this. I mean, I think that, as I said, elections have consequences, and I think that you gotta go back to the drawing board on it, okay? Because again, you're talking about. It ain't just the SEC. You talking about all these places. I'll go back one more. He said we can get our trifling asses out to vote Democrat though. That's what I said, man. It's about trying to get to places. Okay. So he said, are you saying do nothing and just allow? I'm not saying do nothing. What I'm saying is you got to do something else besides this. Because for me, I feel like, okay, I just don't believe that this is attainable. I don't think you're going to get athletes to just go and just say, you know what, I'm not going to go there because of this. Okay. Especially for those that can earn some money. I just don't see it, man. I don't see it. And a lot of people believe me. A lot of people feel the same way I do. Okay. I just think that you just have to go another route with this. Okay. I think it's a point of where you need to start doing some uniting. You need to come together. I mean, we're already divided as a people to begin with, Edwin Moore. We can't agree on simple things. So those are some of the things that we got to start doing. I mean, going back to this comment, you know, I mean, I'm not just saying vote Democrat, just voting, period. But finding ways to overcome some of the situations that people from the past already did. That's where it's at. He said, is the NAACP writing checks to cover tuition to improve facilities at our schools? Man, spitting a lot of facts, man. And he said, I'm sorry, but the amount of cognitive dissonance that we as Black people use when it comes to PWI programs is baffling to me. You know, listen, I know that there's a whole lot of feelings towards these PWI programs. I know that there's a whole lot of feelings towards situations anyway, right? I know there's a whole lot of feelings. He said, my granny told me 4 years ago that Black people don't stick together like they did back in the day. You know, man, can't say I disagree. He said, the only way Black folks will stop supporting PWI is if white people start calling us the N-word at games. Look, all facts. I'm just simply saying, man, you got to find another way. And the other way, it even goes further beyond the field of play. I mean, back during COVID, when you had the situation with George Floyd, there was a lot of momentum that was generated with the Black Lives Matter movement. And people were going and making moves. And then you started seeing monuments being taken down. And you know, you started seeing a lot of things change slowly but surely. But then in a matter of a few years, then all of that started going away because of somebody in office. And it's just real talk that a lot of folks just don't want to embrace. I've seen other folks say that this is a very lazy take. I think it's a calculated thing, but it's just not it, man. Okay, he said, my feelings are only on sadly watching us as black people not give a about being sent back to the 60s when it comes to blacks having rights. As a people, we no longer give a damn. And you know, man, you're right. There's a lot of people that don't care. A lot of people saying, you know what, as long as I'm good, I don't really care about nothing else. And, I'll go back to this comment that was right here. He said, black people don't stick together like they did back in the day. And it said, did anybody study the civil rights movement? The bus boycott was not an easy thing. They were asking thousands of black people not to ride the bus and risk their jobs. This is not hard at all. Okay, but this is different though. You're talking about a different day and age, right? Because what was different back then, there were freedoms that we have now that they did not have back then. There was a lot of restriction that they had back then. They had Jim Crow laws back then, right? I'm not trying to say that you're wrong for this take, but what I'm saying is when you're saying this is not hard at all, tell me why it's not hard. Because for me, you're asking athletes, again, like I said at the beginning of this segment, you're asking athletes to make sacrifices that you yourself may not make if you were in their same situation. Or you're asking people to make sacrifices that you yourself are not in the position to even have to even think about. You might not have a son. You might not have a nephew. You might not have a niece, a daughter that has to make a decision. It's potentially easy for someone who can not be in that position to say that. But let's just say you're in a position where you are not making any money. You're struggling financially. And here they're coming to offer you, as I saw back here in the beginning, $250K. If they're offering you $250K, I mean, come on. Situation is different. He said after the NAACP launched their campaign, Alabama and South Carolina were blocked to reshape black voting districts. The NAACP is up 2-0. That's a good thing. But see, my point though with this though is that there's still a lot of legwork that had to be done, going out and, even beyond this. So that's what I'm just saying. He said, well, it was much harder to make a sacrifice then, having an option to go to another school. Comparing people who were thrown partially in prison to someone with options is not the same. I'm sorry. That's your opinion, but I just feel like this, man. I ask again, is it really attainable? Is it attainable? That's all. Is it really attainable? The point that I think is more attainable, if you want to keep it honest, I think is the third point. I think the third point below is the one that I think is more attainable for fans, alumni, and donors and consumers to stop purchasing tickets and merchandise. I think that's the easier one out of all of that, because to ask young folks to make a decision like this, I don't know. That's just where I'm at. Okay, sadly, that's how we blacks move now. We cover ourselves and family that we really care about. Yeah, Kylan Hill. Kylan Hill. Kylan Hill's a good example. Kylan Hill, he used his platform. Okay, yeah, he did. He used his platform in Mississippi State. Okay, yeah. I know Missouri, the players. They made a stand. They said we're not going to play a game until certain things were met. Okay, yes, I understand that. But I think the easiest piece, the easier of these 3 points, I think, is the fans and donors. We know money, it talks. But the other part of that, though, is will you get people other than black folks to get on board with this? Can you get white people to get on board with this? Can you get white folks to that are fans of Alabama Crimson Tide and Ole Miss and Coastal Carolina, Clemson? How can you get those folks? He says SNCC protesters put their lives on the line and we're the same age as the athletes. Okay. But again, we're talking about a different time and age, though. I hear what you're saying, but we're talking about a different day and age with different conditions. Right? Okay. He said there was a lot of broad brushing in the comments. Black folks in Mississippi, South Carolina, Virginia, and Florida don't rock with PWIs like that. That's funny. He says, speaking of the third point, if we keep complaining about things like the Texas Southern and PV game being moved and we don't support, how much damage is done to the argument to get folks to come to the schools? Man, that's a really good thing. That's a really good point too, because, again, the point of that I said even in the beginning when I said that, people not coming to the game, despite that it's being on national TV, what kind of good look would that be? Okay, it said it was right. It was the right ask by the NAACP because it prompted discussions, which will eventually lead to actions. And I don't disagree with this at all. And I want everybody to understand. I want to make this point very plain. I'm not saying that it can't happen. Okay, I'm just trying to present, both sides of the coin. Okay. I'm presenting both sides of the coin. Do I believe that it could happen? I mean, there are ways that it could happen. But the point is that, when is it going to start happening? And how is it going to start happening? Right? Are you really going to see these athletes start doing this, start making these moves? Right? And who's going to be the ones that are going to be doing the work of influence? Is it going to be some of you that are in the comments tonight? I mean, is it going to be some of the fans of these schools, some of the alums of these schools? I mean, who's it going to be? I mean, I know that you want to make moves and you want to have change. But you're also in a day and age where people love their teams to win too. Let's just also make that point very clear too. So, he said, we can make an impact, but this is not the way probably. I believe if we vote and position ourselves to do better strategically. Okay. And he said, voting isn't the only answer. Are we following up with who we vote for to see what they're doing, or are we just voting every 2 to 4 years? I mean, hey, all these points, but I go back to what Iz said, this is something. I hope it leads to the right action sooner than later. I'll say that. I can honestly say, regardless of what position or what happens here, it ain't a good situation where we're at. Okay. So a lot of these kids are already going somewhere other than the Confederate schools including the Big Ten. I mean, I said already, man. I mean, there's more than more than that. Okay. More than that. Okay. He said, let's be real. Most of those P4 players aren't even on NIL. It just begs the questions, man. It begs the questions of all this stuff. Okay. It begs the questions. I like all the commentary on this, man. I'll pull this back up again. I like all the commentary on this. I do. And that's one of the big reasons why I wanted to pull this up and talk about it tonight, because I just really wanted to see what everybody else thought, and I wanted to have a good discussion. Again, for the record, Wild Wayne is not opposed to this whole thing. Not at all. My position is I just hope that it's attainable. I hope it can be done. If you're going to push it, hope it can be done. But honestly, in my own realistic view, I think the third point is the one. But also, I got to say this about our HBCUs as a whole, okay? I got to say this as a whole. Okay, aren't the last three national champions? Yeah, they are. Yeah, they have. When it comes to our HBCUs, when it comes to everything, all things honest, I've talked about it before, is infrastructure. We got to do better ourselves at helping ourselves. Our alums, we got to do better as alums of helping ourselves. Now I know we can do things like we can give a little bit more, and even if we don't just give a little bit more, we can support by coming to games. Supporting them when they're on the road, doing different things, giving our time, giving our gifts and our talents. One of the things that I've done, I've made my commitments with my track officiating. I've done last couple of SWAC indoors, and this year I did SWAC outdoor to officiate. These are other ways that you can do things to support your HBCUs to give back. I think the infrastructure is something that, I will continue to talk about, because I know you can talk about NIL and different things like that, but I just don't think the NIL space really is something that we could be, as HBCUs, that we can be competitive in. Yeah, we can give some, but at the end of the day, I mean, we got to be looking at ways where we can make our facilities better. We got to make ways to where we can have our budgets to be better. We got to make ways where we're doing even bigger deals, whether it's sponsorships, naming rights of our buildings, just different creative ways to where we can do some bigger things, man. I think at the end of the day, with the Out of Bounds campaign, I think that if you're going to get behind it, truly get behind it, if it can be effective, that would be awesome. I'd love to see it. Love to see some change, because anything that's a lot of these changes, anywhere that it can benefit our institutions for the better, hey, I'm cool with it. Legally, okay, legally, I'm all for it. Okay. But that was my point on that. All right. Now, let me go back to where I was in the beginning here, where I was talking about the football schedules. Okay. Now, this is where we are as we get ourselves ready. Now, a lot of people, I've seen certain folks, they've started doing some previews and different stuff like that. And if you want to do some previews, that's cool. As for me, I think it's a little early for me, because we've come out of fall, we come out of spring football, we've seen a few things, but there's still a lot of movement that's still to come. Now, I'm looking forward to being at SWAC Media Day. I will be there again. I was there last year. I'll be there again July 15th. And I'm going to be looking to, ask some questions of some of the coaches, man, about some of the typical things that they face, which is, roster turnover. And those of you that watch my show, as you do, you know that I've had a big thing about the transfer portal, showed all the movement. There's a lot of it. There are people who left out, and there are people who came back in, right? So there's a lot of things going on. So ahead of this week 0, which is a great slate, man, of games to get behind, right? If you have not made your plans for any one of these games that you can get to, man, start doing it. I will be in Atlanta for Alabama A&M and Howard. Looking forward to getting down there and being there in Atlanta and seeing us play on a national stage. I'm looking forward to seeing the atmosphere. Alabama A&M alums, we've been ramping up our efforts, getting things rolling, getting folks, to get on board with the initiative. I've seen Howard people doing the same thing. I'm looking forward to that game in Nashville with Jackson State at Tennessee State, man. A big game down there in Nashville with that John Merritt, all those different things, the history behind those two rivals getting together and clashing. Looking forward to seeing that go down. Looking forward to see what Coach Reggie Barlow has for his second campaign down there. Looking forward to seeing what TC Taylor has, with a reshaped roster, right? Also, Prairie View going to play Tarleton State, man. Tarleton State, they were a top 5 team in the FCS last year. They had an early exit in the FCS playoffs. We'll see what kind of team they have. There's turnover definitely with Prairie View, but on ESPN2, that's a chance for them to show. Also, the big game down there in Birmingham, man. ESPNU in the afternoon there, on August 29th. Southern, the Marshall Faulk era starting. That's going to be awesome. Going down there playing against Andrew Body coming back for his last season of college football. Eddie Robinson, reshaped offense, lost his big play receivers, lost his best offensive lineman, a couple guys on defense. We'll see what that's like. Hey, North Carolina Central going down there to Houston, man, to take on Texas Southern. Texas Southern had their first winning season in 25 years last year, going 6-5. Trey Oliver, they fell short of their goal last year. They won a lot of games, but they didn't win the ones that they really needed to. So that's going to be on HBCU Go. That's their opener this year. I'm also kind of funny intrigued by the opener down there in Tallahassee. With Quinn Gray taking on his former team. His former quarterback Isaiah Knowles taking on Albany State. They just went deep in the playoffs last year in Division II. Seeing what that's like, right? So there's a lot of things, a lot of intrigue, man, in the early part of the slate, man. And you look over here, you look at Deshaun Jackson. What's he got in year 2, right? New quarterback. New running backs, lost both of his starting running backs last year to the portal. Let's see what he's got. Year 2 for Sean Gibbs down there at North Carolina A&T. Damon Wilson with Morgan State. Some say that this could be it, man. He's got to produce this year. Also Chennis Berry, year 3, has yet to lose a MEAC game. Right? Has yet to lose a MEAC game as head coach. Right? So you'll see back-to-back champions of the MEAC. You'll see what he's got. New coach Van Malone. He was on my show, a couple months ago. His opener as a head coach taking on Virginia Lynchburg to get a good opener. That's good. Virginia Lynchburg, I'm just glad I won't have to mention a couple of team names this year, like Lincoln University, don't have to mention them, but it's a good start. And then also Michael Vick, man, coming off a 1-win season. They had a lot of turnover, staff turnover, player turnover. They got Winston-Salem State coming in. You got a chance to match last year's win total in the first game. He said it's going to be a fun, competitive football season. Said the MEAC need more teams. Agreed. And then, I just have the first couple weeks here. This first main slate, man, is so loaded. I mean, with just lots of action. When we get to this part of the schedule, man, it's going to be so awesome. Now, I know we got some cupcakes, we got some money games, but we've also got some jewels in this thing. Like you've got the aforementioned Labor Day Classic and you got the Orange Blossom Classic, right? You got those in here. on the opening, full weekend of week 1, right? You've got Jackson State playing under the lights against Edward Waters, okay? You've got all these different things, right, happening. But then you flip over here to the MEAC side, right, in the first full week. You look over and you see you see what you got here. You've got games like Hampton going to play Maryland after after playing Virginia Lynchburg. But you've got some games, man. So, then week 2, you've got here, you've got more money games, but you get the Southern Heritage Classic early, right? You got Tennessee State against Alabama A&M early. That's going to be awesome. I'm just really looking forward to it all, man. Really looking forward to it all. So like I said, man, tonight, I wanted to come back. I wanted to get back here and generate, a little something going back here with my show. I don't just do shows just to do shows. I don't just make up stuff to talk about. Right now we've got different, it's just kind of a slower period for us. He said, MEAC, please get more teams so we can stop talking about Chennis Berry. uh, hey, Adam Spencer, I'm just playing, man. I'm playing. Hey, you boys, man, look, I'm excited to see what Hampton gonna do this year. I really am. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what they're gonna do. They got some interesting ones. I'm looking forward to see what that Battle of the Bay gonna look like this year too. You guys are gonna come to Norfolk this year. Excited to see what they're gonna do in the CAA, man. Trying to see what he's gonna do, because I just got a feeling like, man, Van Malone, with all that experience that he has, I got a feeling that Van Malone's gonna do some things with Hampton. His enthusiasm and his passion, I mean, it's just off the charts, man. Like his enthusiasm and his passion is contagious. So it's hard to not root for that guy. And I definitely will be looking for the Pirates to get back on the ship, man. Because 2 wins, that ain't y'all. And y'all were better than the 2-win team last year. So we'll see what it's like. But back to this comment right here. He said, man, can MEAC get more teams? Listen, man, I would love to see the MEAC get more teams. But the question about it is where is it going to come from? And also, you can't just add just to add. If you're going to do any adding, you want to add with purpose. You want to add with with some definite purpose and forward vision there. I know that they looked at trying to, kick the tires on Virginia State, and they said it doesn't make sense for us to move up right now. So we'll see, man. We'll see. He said, we've heard good things from the spring game. Yeah. And, some of the things that I'm going to have coming up through the summer, I talked about, I'm going to have SWAC Media Day, so I'll have my coverage from that. Like I did last year, I had a lot of I interviewed 10 of the 12 coaches last year. I'm definitely going to work on trying to get all of them this year. I'm also going to try to work on getting a few more players to come on the show while I'm down there. And then also, they have not announced where MEAC Media Day is yet and when it is. Now, we know it's typically the week after the SWAC one. I've been looking intently because I really would like to get down there and participate if it matches up with my schedule and my time. So, we'll see. And say, okay, Wayne, do you think our Bulldogs are going to get right? Something, man, one can only hope, man. It's a little early for me to kind of say. I think that being 4-8 last year and doing what we did going 4-8, being that we were really bad on defense, one can only hope that our defense is going to be a lot better. I'm really curious to see what they've done running back wise. Remember last year we struggled to run the ball as well. So I'm really curious to see what we've done running back wise. We definitely have revamped our offensive line, because we had guys, that left via the portal, but we also had a couple guys that we recruited. I want to see, did we get, we got bigger up front on defense, but I want to see what that's going to look like rotationally, because we weren't just bad on defense because of, it wasn't so much scheme. It was a lot of injuries that we had as well, and we didn't have much depth. Quarterback wise, obviously, Quad being there, we'll see what that's like. Can he be healthy? Again, that's always the question with Quad, right? You've got quarterbacks there on the roster that that have promise, that have talent. I have to hope that we can be better, than 4-8. On paper, I think that we are better, but I gotta get into all of the looks. I gotta look at the roster. I gotta get into doing the X's. I gotta do all of the study. I haven't had a chance to do all that yet, and I definitely will be doing that over the next month before I get to SWAC Media Day. Because y'all know me, man. When I get down there, I'm gonna have all the numbers. I'm gonna have the facts. I'm gonna have the figures. Be dropping different nuggets, different stuff like that. Like you remember in the video last year when I was talking to Coach Eddie Robinson, how I mentioned Tashawn Smoot, and he's like, how'd you know about Tashawn Smoot? I'm like, dude's from my home state, man. I knew who he was, and just different things like that. I will definitely be scouring all over the place. And then also, before the season begins, that I'm going to have my show like I had last year. I had the preview show that I had with Blue and also with Zoe. And it was a tremendous show that we did where we covered all of 21 of the FCS teams. We went cover to cover, right? And we plan on doing a lot more of that this year, right? I know that a lot of people out here, they're going to be doing their shows, going to be doing their previews, going to be doing things like that. But if you're doing previews, one thing that I can just ask is really do your research, man. Don't just come on and just say, oh, yeah, we're going to go 9-3 this year, and you ain't got no basis for why you think they're going to go 9-3. Just, do some research. Come on out here. Because I'm going to do mine. And I'm going to work with all the folks out here that are dedicated to this, that are true to this, right? So we definitely are going to see some things this year, because I know a lot of people, they love to talk about how rosters turn over, this team ain't going to be this, that team going to be that, and then we look up and we see something like Bethune-Cookman last year go 6-6, surprise folks, right? Then, Southern, went 2-10 last year, like surprises. Because, all the research that I did, everything that I saw, everything I thought the Southern was going to be the team last year of the West, and they weren't. They had problems, and they ended up firing a coach, right? So there's a lot of things that we have to, look at. We can know our rosters, we can know our teams like we think we do, but then once that ball kicks off, you see what it is. And he says, I did my research. Yeah, I think you got lucky last year too. I'm just playing. That's my boy. Good to see you, man. And speaking of this, man, a lot of folks giving y'all grief, man, about y'all playing that game at 12 noon, man. I'm like, look, I hope it does numbers in the stands, and I hope it does numbers on television, man, because I definitely plan to be watching that thing. Yeah, so I'm looking forward to talking to you, boy, Mr. Jackson, again at SWAC Media Day, because Every time he sits down with me, man, we have a good time. So, but yeah, and he said, we got to get off the mat and beat a team with a pulse this year. I can't remember the last team we beat that had a winning record. Yeah, man, it's been a minute. It's been a minute. I'm going to leave it at that. It's been a minute. But listen, man, I know a lot of you out here, you're excited. You want to get into football because really, man, at the heart of our culture, football is what we do, right? I know we got other sports out here. We got other things that we're into also. I talk about here at the top of the show, support these young people in the SWAC who are going to the NCAA championships there in track and field. Definitely support these folks, man. Drop them a line on social media, show them your support. That would be great because that is a very, very difficult thing to do, man. Out of all these great athletes in America, for these young folks to make it and be amongst the elite, man, only 24 people and 24 relay teams get to advance out there, right? So, yeah. What'd he say? You should do a review of what you thought versus what happened. You know what? I did that last year. Did it last year. He said like high, low, actual. I did it last year. I did it at the end of the season last year. I showed all that stuff, right? So what I am gonna do, what I can do, I can rehash what I had. I can definitely do that. I can rehash it. I can pull it back up. You know what? Let me see. Let me see if I got it. Let me see if I still got what I had from last year. Nah, I don't have it. I don't have it in my files. I know I still saved it. I saved it in my graphics, my graphic creation. So I do have that. So I can definitely bring that up when I do my preview show. That I will do for you. But I did last year, I did show my previews. He said, "Oh, okay, I missed that." So last year, I do know what I did last year. Last year, I said that it was going to be Jackson State, and I said that it was going to be Southern in the West. I said that it was going to be in the West. I had it as I had a log jam in the West. I had Southern as the outright winner, and then I had a log jam of Alcorn, PV, and Grambling together. Each going 4-4 in league play. Okay. I had that. I also said that the surprise team, I said that the surprise team that could sneak up on you last year was Bethune-Cookman. I had Bethune-Cookman at 5-7 last year, and they ended up being 6-6. So I did have that part right, but I was like way off on Southern. Completely missed Southern, big time. I had the teams that I thought that weren't going to be any good. I mean, I thought, shout out to Valley. I didn't think Valley was going to be any good. I thought with my team, I said we were going to be 5-7. And then I had people rip me for that. And I had my own fans rip me for that, for saying that we were going to be 5-7, and we ended up going 4-8. I mean, I didn't think we were going. I just didn't believe that we were going to be very good for the reasons why I thought we weren't going to be any good. I thought we weren't going to be any good because I didn't think we were going to be that good on offense. I didn't think we were going to be that bad on defense. That's the part that I missed us on. And then also in the MEAC, I had North Carolina Central winning, and I got South Carolina State's record spot on. I said they would be 9-3, and they actually were 9-3, right? But I didn't have South Carolina State winning the MEAC. I had North Carolina Central. And also, I didn't see Delaware State being as good as they ended up being. So that's another one of those type of pieces where, you can do all your research and you still can, it can come up. But let's just keep it honest for everybody that's watching. If you thought that Southern was going to be 2-10 last year, come on. If you thought Southern was going to be 2-10 last year, I don't think nobody saw that. Nobody saw that. Nobody saw them having the struggles that they had. I also, when it came to PV, I said that PV had the opportunity to win the West. I thought that they had the potential to. I didn't think that they would actually do it because I thought that potentially in the first year for Coach Tremaine Jackson, there might be a few growing pains. And I actually thought that they were going to lose the opener against Texas Southern. Now, as it turned out, for 59 minutes and 58 seconds, I was right. For 59 minutes and 58 seconds, I was right that Texas Southern was going to beat Prairie View. Okay. See, I had Southern winning 4 games and Texas Southern finishing second in the West. Yeah. But still, you had them winning 4 games, but you didn't see them only winning 2. That's my point, right? Nobody had them winning only 2. All right. So next season, this season upcoming, man, there is so much uncertainty out there about who can do what. So much about who can do what. We don't know. We don't know about where this thing can ebb and where it can flow. Okay. One thing I'm doing right now, I'm pulling up something. He says, well, not that much time because we were winning technically before their last drive. Well, what I mean though is you know what I'm saying. They scored on the very last play of the game where they were that close to winning. That was a crazy game, man. Crazy game. And one thing that was really cool when I was at the Celebration Bowl Media Day, I had a chance to talk to Cam Peters about that. And he told me about that last drive and said that, told me about like the play, said when they went to timeout, they asked him, they said, hey, what do you like? He said, let's go empty, and, that they busted the coverage. And Rodney Ojo was right there wide open, and everybody was like, well, what the heck just happened? I was like, what the heck just happened? Okay. Here's what I wanted to bring up. Okay. So yeah, let's go here. I'll just peek right through it here real quick. Some of these schedules. Okay. So we talk about my Alabama A&M Bulldogs, man. Yeah. 4-8 last year. We gotta do better. And honestly, I'll just say it right off the top. That first game is what's going to set the tone because, you lose that first game. Yeah. Miles and Bowie State, those are games that, you think we would win. Then you get Tennessee State at home under the lights. I mean, if you start off 4-0, you've got some good vibes. I'm going to say it right now. Even though FAMU has the APR situation, listen, man, you tripping if you think FAMU ain't going to come out and play hard. You really tripping if you think FAMU ain't going to be formidable. APR or not, man. Quinn Gray, first season, listen. And when you go down there, man, to Tallahassee, I don't care. It's a place that we haven't even won. Alabama State, they got off the mat last year down there, right? They exercised the demons and they went down there and they won in a big way, right? Yeah, FAMU is a tough place to play. And so we haven't won there. Starting 4-0, as he said, is attainable. I agree. But, you're going to be going down there to FAMU in an opener, right? And then, okay, you don't get that one. Then look where you're going the next week. You're going back down there to Mobile to face Jackson State, right? He said, yeah, we got to get them. We ain't beat FAM since the 70s. That is an absolute fact. Ain't beat them since the 70s. Been forever, right? So we definitely, in the games that we played down there in Tallahassee, the last time we played them down there 2 years ago, we played them on Black Friday, had a ton of missed opportunities. Okay. Previous couple times we was down there, man, it wasn't competitive at all. Okay. So this is a chance that they have. And you see the Jackson State game, down there in Mobile, it's been a little ugly playing Jackson State here lately. Last year was 57-24. So yeah, you're just looking at this type of stuff. Bethune-Cookman at home under the lights, Grambling homecoming. Alabama State lost to Alabama State 4 years in a row. Okay. You know what it is. Last year was an absolute embarrassment, 56-13. Okay. Like this schedule, man, listen, if you don't start off by winning that first game against Howard, and you start, you start thinking of some things, and, let's say you come in there 2-2 to league play, man. It's tough. It's tough. It's tough. Okay, he said 3-2, possibly 4-1 going to Jackson. Loss is probably to Howard. I think y'all will beat FAMU. I hope you're right, man, but it'll be tough, right? So yeah, that's what we got. Then here, FAMU, again, like I said before, forget the APR talk, man. This is my theme when I talk about these guys. And when I see Quinn Gray at Swag Media Day, the same thing I'm going to say to him. Forget the APR, man. Like, this is character building. This is program building. If you think he ain't going to get these boys to play hard and try to at least win the SWAC in the standings, you got another thing coming, man. He's got some opportunities. Okay, Albany State, South Carolina State, that's a quality opponent. We know Miami collect the check. You get Tennessee State coming to your house, that's a quality opponent. You look at these games, man. There's still a lot of opportunities out here for FAMU. So that's what I said. Everybody, all the laughter about the, they're not going to postseason, all this stuff. Hey, just cut it. New head coach trying to establish something. You got to understand that that's where it's at. He said losing 3 in a row to Valley. Man, oh man. You talk about a game that I still didn't see coming last year. I listen, the first time that they lost to Valley, I thought it could be possible because of the way that they lost their teammate before that. Okay. And teams seem to rally around tragedy, right? Last year did not see them losing to Valley, right? So here, you looking at that. Some quality games, okay? These guys are going to play hard, man, and they're going to get some folks, okay? They're going to be motivated. Jackson State, Southern at home, at Alabama State, at Alcorn. Man, first time going to Alcorn in the SWAC. They're going to play. These guys are going to play. He says, I think FAMU will be sorry again this year. Well, one can only see, man. Then you get here, Prairie View. Okay. They got, those first 5 out the gate. Challenges. And first 5 out the gate, man. Tarleton, you get a chance to learn something about yourselves early. Texas Southern, which will be an absolute gut check game. It always is. Doesn't matter if it's played in Houston or if it's played in Prairie View. It's always going to be an early gut check game. Because, what makes it an early gut check game, not only is it a rival, it's because it is a SWAC game. And one thing you cannot go 0-1 early in SWAC play. And he said Panthers gonna shock some folks. We not ducking smoke. And I love, and that's what I like about this for you guys. You guys are not ducking smoke. You playing some people, playing Tarleton, Baylor, you're gonna collect a nice little piece of change. Stephen F. Austin, right? Like that. You guys are going to East Texas A&M. East Texas A&M wasn't any good last year, but guess what? It's still a quality opponent when you go play somebody on the road, man. Like that. And then you look at the games that are in league play, right? The Grambling game, man. Hey, Grambling now, you've gotten them 2 years in a row. So it's just something that you can expect that Mickey Joseph, those guys are going to be looking to come to the Cotton Bowl, man, looking for some redemption, right? You look at the Southern game, that kind of stuff. You just, look at the game at the end. The game at Alabama State, man, playing them at the end. That's going to be some stuff. So it says, Alcorn might surprise them. Alcorn won there last time. When they played there last time, Alcorn beat them there. It says, let's see. And when we will get a win or two, people expect us to lose. Well, we'll see, man. We'll see. What do you say? Breaking news. U.S. Supreme Court allows Alabama to use congressional map favoring Republicans in this year's elections. Interesting. He said, what game are you speaking of? Baylor? He said, good luck to PV outside the conference. Yeah, man. The Stephen F. Austin and East Texas A&M game, man, those are interesting ones. The Tarleton one, that's a that's a little bit of a tall order, but you know what, man, I'm glad they're playing them. He says, look at those two games. We'll see, right? But that's what they've got. He said we beat SFA last time we played, and they've been ducking ever since. Well, they're coming to your house. September 19th. It said SFA want to get back on PV. They left our schedule a long time after we beat them. Yep. It's going to be a good one, man. Going to be a good one. That opener, man, going to be playing, there down there in Stephenville, on ESPN too. He said Alcorn almost beat SFA a few years ago. Yeah, Tarleton and SFA. Man, I don't know about Tarleton because if it's the version of if they're any close to what they were last year, Tarleton was, they were really good last year. Like I said, they stubbed their toe when they got in the playoffs, but they were really good. So we'll see, man. But yeah, that's Prairie View. And then you look here at Jackson State, you got that game right out the gate, man, that sets the tone. You're going down there to Nashville, going up there to Nashville. And gonna be a lot of Jackson State fans in attendance. We know that. Jackson State folks, man, they gonna travel well to this game. Especially, it's not Labor Day weekend, but it's a weekend, man, that you can go and you can kick it. Go on up there, man, go down on Broadway and get you some, get together with your people, hang out. It's going to be a good time up there in Nashville. But, Reggie Barlow got a lot to prove, man. They only won 2 games last year. They were competitive. They were competitive in spots. But, their problems last year, they didn't have anything quarterback-wise. They had multiple revolving door at quarterback. And also they had a few issues on defense. So we'll see what that's like. We know the Edward Waters. We know the Tuskegee. We know that. But you look at that first, initial, man, that's a SWAC game. I don't know what happened to my icon there, but that is a SWAC game that they're playing against Southern, hosting them. And that'll be nice, man, playing them under the lights there at home. They spanked them last few times, man. Last 3-4 times they played Southern. They put the whooping on them boys. So, Southern will be coming to Jackson looking for some redemption. Then, the Mobile game, and then, the Grambling. Grambling's been that one team that's had Jackson State's number the last couple years. We'll see. They're going down there in the hole. Then you get FAMU for homecoming, and then you go to Bethune-Cookman. And then, my eyes are on those last two also, man. Those last two on the road at Alabama State, at Alcorn State. Now, last time they had that finish a couple years ago, when they played there in Montgomery a couple years ago, that was one of the hardest hitting games that I've seen in SWAC play in the last few years, right? That was a slugfest. So it'll be interesting with them going down there to play in Montgomery this year towards the end and then finishing on the reservation. Because the reservation, even though they blew out Alcorn last time they were there, Alcorn came back to Jackson last year and pushed you to the limit. So, this will be interesting. Interesting schedule for Jackson State. Love to see it. Then you go here with the very first campaign of Marshall Faulk. They start out the gate with Alabama State there in Birmingham. Non-league game that does not count in the SWAC standings. Neutral site there. He said, "Can we stop playing multiple D2 games and out of conference? Stop, please." Man, it's just something. We'll see what it is, going forward. But yeah, Southern going to Houston 3 times, man. Isn't that interesting? 3 times. 3 times. At Houston, get paid. At Prairie View and at Texas Southern. And the crazy thing is they're going to at Prairie View and at Texas Southern in back-to-back weeks, man. Man, man, that's tough. And you figure that is sandwiched with a homecoming matchup with UAPB. And UAPB, they've played some games last year. They played some games where, when they had some offense going, they played folks. And then you've got the at Jackson State game I talked about before in your SWAC opener. So you've got, you coming out the gate where you got Alabama State, then you got Kentucky State at home. And what Kentucky State did last year. They went to the playoffs in D2 and they pushed Grambling right to the limit. And there was a bad call that helped them win that game in overtime. And then you see Louisiana Christian just going right on past that. NAIA team just going right on past that. But you look at the SWAC games that they have, man. It's tough. He said, "Thank the SWAC for that dumb scheduling. Having a team go to both teams in the state. PV and TSU should be split, one home and one way, with anyone outside of Texas." Yeah. He said, "You think less of yourselves when you refuse to schedule tougher matchups outside the conference. No way any SWAC team is playing multiple D2 and NAIA opponents." Yeah. Man, you look at those 3 road games in a row there. That's some tough business. You figure the Jackson State game, you're playing all 4 of your road games right there in a 6-week stretch. That's tough. Bethune-Cookman at home ain't no slouch. Alcorn at home ain't no slouch. And the one at the end. So, yeah, we'll see what it's like, man, with Southern. But on paper, man, tough. Okay, you go here to Alabama State. Last year, they won 10 games. Here's their schedule, man. This one here. You look at, Southern, again, Lane, they'll get that one. That's an easy one. At Troy, getting paid in state. Valley, at Bethune-Cookman, so there's some different ones in here that you can look at. You got at Bethune-Cookman could be a little bit of a, you don't know what Raymond Woody's got coming back there. They lost some talent. So you'll see what happens with that. FAMU at home for homecoming. They should be motivated there. The game against Alabama A&M, A&M, what they've got on their plate with it, looking to snap that losing streak. At Texas Southern, going to Houston, that's gonna be interesting. Andrew Body going back there to play Texas Southern. That's gonna be, regardless, Texas Southern's gonna be a good team this year, I expect. And then, Jackson State at home, and then Prairie View, man. It's interesting matchups. Definitely from the middle to the back half of this schedule, man, it's gonna be challenging for Alabama State. But if they've got an ounce or anywhere close to what they had last year, they could do some things. But it's an interesting schedule for Alabama State. Be interesting to get into that with the dissection as we go forward. Then you go Grambling. Again, a lot was made of the first two games, Clark Atlanta and Central State. We know what it is. Just get your 2 wins. Just keep moving. Just keep going. Get your cash down there at Amon Carter Stadium down there in Fort Worth against the Horned Frogs. Then you get a week off, and then you get that big one. Because see, where it really, really matters for Grambling, the course, they should get those first 2. But it's about that opener in that SWAC, man, against Prairie View. I believe that is really what is going to truly dictate where they go. Because you've got Alcorn at home, you got Jackson State at home. You've got some of your tougher games. A few of your tougher games are either neutral or at home. Now you've got the ones where you go to Alabama A&M, you go to Texas Southern, you go to Bethune-Cookman. Those are not going to be easy either. But on the home and the neutral side of things, that's what's going to tell the story to me about Grambling. And I'm also interested to see what Grambling has at quarterback this year. So he said some SWAC teams playing intramurals the first 2 weeks. He said, think about this. If Mickey Joe couldn't get past Bubba or T-Jack, the Graham base gonna start asking questions. Yeah, man. It's gonna be interesting, man. Gonna be interesting for these guys. But like I said, it's that first one right out the box for me there in Dallas. You get that one, okay. Then you got Alcorn and Jackson State coming to the hole. Me interesting. He says, good news for D2. These games are basically exhibition. They don't count for playoff seeding. He said, no, he got a 2-year extension. Yeah. So, yeah, that's Grambling, man. Gonna be interesting. And also, they're playing 11-game schedule, too. So, we'll see, man. Then you got Alcorn. Alcorn, they got off to a bad start last year. With the wheels fell off right there in the beginning when they lost that game to Northwestern State by giving the ball away a bunch of times, right? But one game I'm missing, I forgot. They're playing Miles in their opener, okay? This one, I'll make sure I have this corrected. They are playing Miles in their opener. So they'll get that win. At least they should. And then they play at Southern Miss in game 2. And then they have early out the gate, they got UAPB there in Memphis for that Southern Heritage and a SWAC game. They owe UAPB because UAPB got them last year. And then interesting one for me is that one where they go play at North Alabama. That's the opener of North Alabama's new football stadium down there in Florence, Bank Independent Stadium, right? Night game under the lights. Perfect opportunity to crash the party in front of 10,000 fans. And then you've got, Texas Southern, who they absolutely hammered last year in Houston. That was one of their best games that they played. But you see where it is for these guys, man. You look at the road games at Grambling, at Prairie View, at Southern. That's some tough stuff for Alcorn State, right? They get FAMU on their turf, and they get the big one, the Soul Bowl there at the end. But it's the road games for me, man. You look at that at Grambling, at Prairie View, at Southern. It's tough in your division, right? So, you will see what it's like, man, for Alcorn State this year. But yeah, they got a 12-game schedule with Miles. Apologies, for missing that one. I had it documented, but we'll get it fixed as we go. And said Alcorn comes for PV homecoming. Yes, they sure do. They sure do. They sure do. All right, so we go on. Bethune-Cookman. Here you go, John Branch. John Branch, man, I know you pissed off about, a lot of y'all still pissed off about Virginia Lynchburg that early for homecoming, man. Oh my gosh. Hey, but if you can look past that, man, the rest of the schedule is pretty cool. You guys will get that payment game out the way early on a Thursday night. I like that game against Stetson, man. That's a nice one. In-state, playing them Pioneer Football Conference opponent, man. FCS on FCS. I like that. But yeah, that Virginia Lynchburg at home on homecoming, man. Come on, bro. Let's just come on. He said, "Don't get me started." He said, "Don't get me started." I know, man. I know. All right. We're gonna move on past that. But South Carolina State coming to you, right? That's a good one. He said they have no weeks off. Well, they have 1 week off. But after that, yes, they have no weeks off. You're right. Yeah. You look at that, man. That's that schedule. It's pretty daunting. So he said Stetson is closer to BCU High School Stadium than BCU. So you look at Alabama State at home, and you go to Alabama A&M. You got to go to Valley. You got Jackson State at home, at UAPB. I mean, man, you go back to back to Louisiana. That's another one, man. I don't like that. Back to back to Louisiana. We talked about Southern going back to back to Houston. This one's another one, man. Going back to back to Louisiana. That's a long trip, man. And then you get the return match with FAMU down there at the Florida Classic. They snapped the losing streak against them last year in the final minute. So 6-6 season, man. But they got to replace quarterback because they lost Cam Ransom and also Timmy. They lost Huggins. They lost man. They lost both of their starting receivers, man. Javon Ross, that's the other guy I'm thinking about. They lost Malik Huggins and Javon Ross to the portal. Those guys are playing in the FBS now, right? So, oh yes, that's right. You do host Grambling, and look, it must be late at night for me. I'm looking right at it. Okay, you play at Southern and you host Grambling. You're right. Thank you. I appreciate that. I got it. I corrected that. Well, you're still playing them back to back. Grambling, then Southern. That's going to be interesting. Okay. So we'll see, man. We'll see what they got on coming back, man, after 6-6 season. All right. So now you go, shout out to Valley. Shout out to Valley. Valley, man. Be interesting to see what kind of roster they got this year. Because this schedule on paper ain't doing them no favors. At Nichols Thursday night, at Sacramento State on a long trip, and that game is going to be played at 10 p.m. Eastern, 9 Central Time. Going to be late on a long trip out there to California, And then you got Chicago Football Classic, man. Come on. Playing Lincoln, PA. I mean, that's cool and all to go play in Soldier Field, but man, ain't gonna be nobody at that game. Nobody at that game at all. So then, Delta State, that's a team that they perennially, every time they play them boys, they had trouble with them, right? And they're not too far down the road from them. They're in Cleveland, Mississippi, that is. So they're gonna be playing them, at home. And then you got Alabama State, and it's tough, man. It's just tough. He said, yeah, Nichols and Sac State out the gate. Yeah. He said, now Valley got every state scheduled, one home and away as it should be done. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting, man. It's interesting here. It's interesting. And he said, I like Chicago Classic from a fan perspective. Yeah, but man, there's going to be plenty of seats available. I mean, Lincoln, PA, man, playing a D2. I mean, I get it. That's probably the best, the best team that they could get, to play, because they put that thing together kind of last minute. The Chicago Football Classic is another one of those games I think that's going to probably end up going by the wayside. The Circle City, that came by the wayside also, which it needed to die because it just was a shell of what it used to be. But as I say every year, Valley gonna get somebody. I don't know who it's gonna be, but they're gonna get somebody. I say it every year. The last 2 years, it's been FAMU who they got. So if you're a fan of any other team that's on this schedule, including FAMU, you better hope that it ain't your team, because they are going to get somebody. That is a guarantee. All right. Here's Texas Southern. They're playing the other games. This is their full schedule. I had it's got gaps in it. But this is their full schedule. Their full 11. So, the North Carolina Central game, I like that. It's going to be a good one right out the gate. I like that game at Prairie View. As I said earlier on in the show, get paid at UTEP and Florida Atlantic. You're going to play Alcorn. You're going to play at Alabama A&M. You got a nice home schedule, man. I mean, you look at what they got. They got 4 straight home games. 4 straight home games. I like that. You get Southern, get Grambling State, Alabama State. They got some good games at home. They come up. I mean, obviously, those 2 PWI games. Man, you know what it is. But look, they're gonna collect some cash, and they're gonna be very competitive in all these other ones. He said the SWAC has both Grambling and Southern going to them. Yeah. 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 And they come to Huntsville. And then they finish it up there at UAPB. So, this is a pretty good schedule for them. They play a lot of games in the state of Texas. He said, hopefully the fans show up. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you look at it, 1, 2. You can count the UTEP game because that's in Texas also. 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 games that they're going to play in the state of Texas. That's pretty favorable for them. So we'll see, man. And then lastly, for SWAC, you got UAPB. You look at them, playing Morehouse. They're going to play that game in Little Rock, talking about that's the Natural State Classic. All right. Then they go to Missouri. And that game will be on SEC Network on a Thursday. There'll be some other things you can watch that night. Oh my goodness, man. I crack myself up sometimes. That game against Alcorn State, that'll be interesting too. We'll see what that's like. They got them last year. Then they play Central State. Yeah. So but listen, they're playing 2D2s, but at least they ain't playing Westgate Christian or Lincoln. Okay, they played both of those teams last year. I'll give them that. All right, let's give them that credit for that. The rest of their schedule, they've got some challenges. And for Alonzo Hampton, he's still there, and we'll see what he can do. There's no Tony Hall this time, because Tony Hall, he left and he's on Alabama State staff at an OC. So we'll see what's like, man. We'll see what it's like. He said UAB has to go to both Grambling and Southern, and to Prairie View and Texas Southern go to them, so they don't get to go to Texas this year. So yeah, man, it's just that's where we got. That's what we got. Then I got MEAC stuff and all this, but you guys, I know most of you guys that are here are looking at SWAC, so you can see what the MEAC does. MEAC, they mix it up well in the non-conference. You see that they basically play everybody because they have to play. They only play five MEAC games, so you see what it is. North Carolina A&T, and then Elizabeth City State at home. You see they got games like William and Mary, Campbell, at Gardner Webb, at Texas Southern. And then you look at their games at Delaware State. That's a big one right out the gate for them. Remember, that was the one that they stubbed their toe and lost their way, man. And they were swimming upstream the rest of the MEAC season after they lost that first one. So they go play them. And, then you've got the, and the game that they play against Delaware State, that's going to be in Philadelphia, right? So, and you look at, at Norfolk, at South Carolina State. So, it's going to be interesting to see what it is for Trey Oliver and those boys, right? Then you've got South Carolina State. This is their the schedule in their quest to try to do a three-peat. They play at Savannah State first. Then they go play that Orange Blossom. Then they have Virginia State. So, out the gate, they got 2 D2s. But then it gets a little bit challenging, at Furman, in state. Then you've got Bethune-Cookman on the road. We'll see what that's like. Citadel, in state. At Charleston Southern, in state. They lost to Charleston Southern last year. Okay. And then you see they start off their homecoming game, Norfolk, at Morgan State, at Howard. Then they got the 2 big ones at the end that they play at home. They won both of those games on the road last year, which was very cool for them. We're very impressive that their 2 toughest games that they won both of them to get that MEAC championship. So both of them will be at home, right? He said, so basically don't see the conference until the end of October. Yeah, that's every year. Every year, the last 5 games for each team is their conference. Their first 7 games is a mixed bag. You go to Morgan State, you look at them, they play North Carolina A&T, they get paid, then they pay somebody. At Arizona State, then they got Virginia Lynchburg, then at Towson, which is the big city rivalry. Baltimore, to go right across the city to play Towson, and they haven't been beating Towson lately. They've lost to them 6 times in a row. And then, at Villanova, and you look at their homecoming against Robert Morris. I like that. They go play at Tennessee State. That'll be Tennessee State's homecoming. Then you see their last 5, Howard, South Carolina State, at Delaware State, Norfolk State, and then at North Carolina Central. You see that for them. Okay. The big things for Damon Wilson, man. And, he's got to win this year to get another year. Then you go here. This is what Michael Vick has. Remember, they won 1 game last year. They just couldn't get out of their way at all last year. They stubbed their toe with penalties, and then timely turnovers, right? They get Winston-Salem State right out the gate. That's an opportunity to get a win and match last year's win total. Then you see the 2 games. Old Dominion is in city, in Norfolk. At Virginia, good luck with that one. But then you start seeing the things that start turning for them. You look at the The Battle of the Bay, which is always a big one for them. They hosted this year. I like this one. They're going to play at Chicago State. I like that. At Robert Morris, going to PA to play that game. Then the aforementioned Virginia Lynchburg, right? And then they get into their conference play. You see that. At South Carolina State this time, Delaware State, North Carolina Central, at Morgan State, then they get Howard, right? So that's what Norfolk State has. Michael Vick definitely needs to show this year that he has learned from all the mistakes that they made last year. The things that he did with his staff, roster building, you got to show that you've done some things. You get an opportunity right out the gate to play Winston-Salem State. Then you go here, Delaware State. This is what they got. You know, the game that's a gap there, they're playing Franklin Pierce, which is a D2 team for their homecoming. Okay. So that will be that'll be updated, but these are the rest of their games. Stony Brook, William and Mary, Bowie State, you know, at USF, Towson, you know, they beat Albany last year. They're going to play them up there. Then you see their games, North Carolina Central, which is in Philadelphia, as I said before, Norfolk State, Morgan State, at Howard, at South Carolina State. So that's what Deshaun Jackson has for year number 2. Then Howard, their schedule is just completely ridiculously, dangerously tough. You see the game that they start off with Alabama A&M and Atlanta, but then you see they got Richmond, who they blew a game against last year. I don't know why you're playing 2 Big Ten teams back to back, man. Insane that they're playing at Indiana and at Rutgers back to back. But I digress. They're getting paid. Do what they do. Just come out of it healthy. But then you got the Truth and Service, the Battle of the Real HU. They pounded Hampton last year, beat them 34-7. So we'll see what it is in the return match. Then I like this. They're playing at the Penn Quakers, an Ivy League team. I like that. Go to Philadelphia. Then Morehouse for homecoming. There's your D2. And then you see their gauntlet through the MEAC. This is a very, very tough schedule for Howard, right? Lot in Ted White's first year. So we'll see what that's like. He said, Howard, give yourself a shot. Right. That's tough, man. That's rough. Playing the defending champions on their field. Ooh-wee. Oh, wow. All right. North Carolina A&T. He said, excuse the English. He said, ain't no way they coming out back not broke up. Not smart. Hey, but guess what? They'll come out a few $100,000 richer. And this is North Carolina A&T. Sean Gibbs, man, lot to prove here in year 2. We'll see what this is like, man. Coming off of winning 2 games last year. Morgan State out the gate. Okay. They got at Georgia State, get paid. Then you look at the games that they got. They got at North Carolina Central in that Aggie Eagle Classic, right? At Campbell, who they beat last year in the CAA. Rhode Island's the defending champion. They host them. Then they go to the state of Rhode Island to play Bryant. Then they make another long trip up there to play New Hampshire. Then for the G-Ho game, they're playing Chicago State. That was a switch. Originally, they were supposed to play Norfolk State. They ended up switching, and they're playing them for that greatest homecoming on earth game, right? He said, at least Howard's not playing Bishop Sycamore opponents. Yeah, you're right. Then you see the rest of their slate. Elon at Monmouth. They play Hampton late this year. Last year they played Hampton early in league play. They play them later this year. And then Albany. Again, like I said, lot to prove for North Carolina A&T. Okay. They played a lot of different dudes at quarterback last year. We'll see what it's like for them, man. Because they gave up a lot of points in games that they were beaten. So we'll see, man. Hampton, I talked about them earlier. This is their slate. You know, we got one more after this with Tennessee State. So you got Virginia Lynchburg in the opener. Then they go to Maryland, get paid. Bryant, you know, CAA at Norfolk in that Battle of the Bay. You know, they got a couple of those rivalry games right there. with Norfolk State and Howard. I like that. Like those games, man. They beat Norfolk State last year and they lost to Howard. So it'll be interesting. And you see at Sacred Heart, which will be a challenge. Monmouth for homecoming. Second year in a row they're hosting Monmouth for homecoming. At Towson, at Elon, and they play A&T and at Stony Brook. Interesting schedule for Van Malone's first year. See what he's got for that. And then lastly, Tennessee State. You see Jackson State in the opener, then they go to play them dogs down there in Athens. We'll pray for you. Then they come to Huntsville. Then they go to Tallahassee. So the HBCU portion of their schedule is pretty stacked. Jackson State, Alabama A&M, Florida A&M, and playing Morgan State. And then you see their Big South OVC schedule with Western Illinois, UT Martin, and so on and so forth. So, it's a lot that has to be done in the second year for Reggie Barlow. So, yeah, I'm glad I was able to do that for everybody. We went through all the 21 schedules. So, like I said, later on up this road, we are going to be doing more research. We're going to be showing, predictions will come in August. Going to sit down with our coaches in the SWAC and we'll see what happens with the MEAC Media Day. We'll see if we can get that done. They just got to announce where it is first. But tonight, I've had fun. And he said, glad to see the JSU-TSU rivalry back on track. Too much history not to play again. Yes, right. When them tickets going on sale. Listen, man, them tickets got to be on sale now. They got to be on sale. Shoot, it's June. The season's starting in 2 months. But listen, I've had fun tonight. I talk about a lot of things. As you see, I've been on here for a couple hours. Make sure everybody hits the like button. Those that watch this for the very first time, watching me for the very first time, or watching me as often as you do, but never subscribe, make sure you subscribe, man. I appreciate everybody all the time that watches me. Yeah, we got some big stuff coming up this road, man. A lot of stuff happening. So glad to be back with y'all for a night. And I'll see y'all again soon. It's Wild Wayne, The Ride. Thank y'all. Good night.
Thank you for joining us on The Ride with Wild Wayne Cartwright. As you exit the ride, make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the like button, and catch up on all of our prior episodes. Until next time, God bless.